Welcome to Project Row Houses. We are excited to open in our community where actually C-STEM began. It began with a relationship with Rick Lowe. We shared a student many years ago, and I'm only 37. But that started me out on this path. And at that time, I didn't know that I was an artist. I'm a scientist, but I'm using both the right and the left side of my brain. And what we have here, I'm going to walk you through the exhibition that is opening at Project Row Houses. And so here what we have is some great history that was done for us by a phenomenal graduate student, PhD student at Rice University. And she did all of the background research for the exhibition. And what this is the history of sacred geometry. Very early on in our work, I had the privilege of meeting the late Honorable Doc Powell, Robert Powell, who taught the late John Biggers the mathematics behind his artwork. And we were very fortunate to sit down and create learning experiences for pre-K through 12 children that has impacted more than 300,000 kids across the country and in other countries. And we use it as a part of our curriculum. And so the student did some amazing research to show the history of fractals and geometry and mathematics and how it shows up in everything that we do in our life. And you see it in quilting, you see it in design, architectural designs of buildings. You see it in everything. Math is a part of our life. It's a part of who we are, and so is science. And also I have to talk about Ted Ellis. Ted Ellis is the artist who was appointed to the 400 Years of African American History and Culture Commission. And that was to commemorate 400 years of free Africans in the English colonies. And this is where this exhibition was born. And so those funds afforded us this opportunity to create art pieces of over nearly 25 years of work that C-STEM has done in the community to celebrate our ancestry. There's not a C-STEM without our ancestors, and we've been brilliant mathematicians and scientists since the beginning of time. And you can see it through the pyramids, you can see it through our entire journey of innovation and inventions over these 400 plus years here. And so some of the pieces that you see are some news clippings from my time as a teacher at Jack Yates, where C-STEM was born and where I ended up meeting Rick Lowe and this work came together. You see students and a sci-fi jazz musician Onyx Ashanti, who builds his own instruments using 3D printers, and he's from one of the freedmen towns of Mount Bayou, Mississippi, and at this time was living in Germany. So quite impressive seeing him perform, but also using technology and innovation with instruments that he's made himself. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is this collage. This collage was made for me as a gift by this student, Phil Denson. And Phil, I'm sure he never knew that his work will end up in a museum. And that's another beautiful thing about C-STEM, is that our community comes with us, and it opens doors and pathways to places they never thought they would be. But this is a great story piece because you see the Polaroid pictures, and that dates how long ago we started, from Polaroids to the disposable Kodak cameras in the box, to now we're digital on our phones. But it definitely dates and shows how we have evolved over time. And the jersey and the picture over here represents the robotics team. I worked with an incredible team of teachers to put robotics in Jack Yates, the very first robotics program at that time. And we built some amazing machines, and we were able to open doors and change lives and provide experiences that these students would not have had otherwise. And I can remember during that time, since it was the first robot that we'd ever built in this community, we had a parade in the community with the robot from Emancipation Park all the way to Jack Yates with our robot on the back of a pickup truck, because the community was so excited about what we had accomplished with the children. And so at C-STEM, you will see that there are sea turtles, and sea turtles are a big part of everything we do. Sea turtles you will also find in John Biggers' work. You will always find a turtle in there somewhere. Well, the sea turtle is an endangered species, but it's been around since before the dinosaur. It's a part of our curriculum, and so we teach environmental stewardship. We're teaching children how to problem solve and how to think about the future, arming them with information and content so that they can be great leaders in the future and be better stewards of our environment. And so the sea turtle has always been a part of our curriculum. Our tagline at SEASTEM is everyone is an artist and an engineer. And we believe there's a little bit of that in everyone. We feel like there's a little Da Vinci in all of us. And so with the sea turtles, we have a sea turtle sculpture competition every year. And these are leftover turtles that children have worked on, and we repurpose them because that's what we do at SEASTEM. We reuse and we reduce and we repurpose and we recycle all the time. And so we created some incredible, beautiful lamps from the sea turtles, and we use the African iris as also a throwback and a connection to the 400 years of African American history and culture. And then here, of course, we have patent and trademarked a lot of things over these years with SEASTEM. Of course, doing this work, I didn't know I was starting out on anything that was so innovative, but we have, and here you see some amazing robots that students have worked on and built, as well as the 3D printers, and we have interns at SEASTEM for college students largely, and this particular 3D printer was built by one of our interns who was at the University of Houston studying to be a mechanical engineer at the time, and he's now doing some great things in engineering at present. And then one of my favorite pieces here, this is a combination of leftover robotics field materials, robotic pieces, and this piece really stretched me because I could only get it to a point. And the colors that I selected on the backdrop are the colors that we use to code our students, and those are also the colors you see with the turtles. And we color-coded our students when we would see them because we didn't teach them, and so we didn't have a relationship with them, and we would only see them once a year. But as adults interacting with young people, you want to know who you're interacting with. And so we had to color code the kids. So if they were wearing a green shirt, we knew they were elementary school. If they were wearing a blue shirt, they were middle school. And if they were wearing a gold shirt, that they were high school students. And so that allowed us to know how to interact and address them, particularly if I'm saying, why are you running through the convention center? And they look like they're high schooler, but then when you talk to them and they're in a green shirt, you said they're an elementary kid, so that's why they're running through the convention center. But this piece, I worked collaboratively with an amazing Haitian artist, Matthew Batiste. And so I had the good fortune of being at Rice University in one of his talks. He has some beautiful work, and after his talk, I asked that he would come to the SEASTEM office and look at the work that I had started. And he decided to work with me to finish it. And so this is the outgrowth of that collaboration. And I love the piece, and I just feel so incredibly blessed that he worked with me on this piece to get it to where it is. And of course, the students of SEASTEM, of course, love this because I'm one of those who would often say, this stuff is cluttering up our space, we need to throw it away. And so for them to see that I've created art with it and didn't just dispose of it, they're quite excited about that. And then, if I go over to this piece here, this represents the why SEASTEM was created. And the reason I say that, because when people look at this mural, they don't see the story largely that this is called the feeder pattern. So as a teacher at Jack Yates, I used to complain about the teachers that were at the middle school. And I would say, what are they doing? What are they teaching? Because when the kids came to me, they weren't ready. The skill level wasn't where it needed to be. But never was I afforded an opportunity to meet the middle school teacher and work with the middle school teacher so that we can collaborate and understand what I needed the kids to know by the time they got to high school. So when SEASTEM was formed, what we did is we created what was called the feeder pattern collaboration. And so you could not participate in SEASTEM if you weren't a feeder pattern. So that meant you had to come to our organization as a partner with an elementary, middle, and a high school working together. And so what we would do is give them an equal number of canvases, and they would have to work collaboratively to solve the challenge of what we would give them. And this represents the feeder pattern. What I did is, from the original mural, I took individual pictures of the canvases that the kids did, and I purposely, when I created this, I left spacing in between, and it's not perfect, so that everyone could see how they had to work at their schools, they had to meet on the weekends, and they had to have a finished work that they did across the feeder pattern. And this was one that I just love dearly because it truly represents so much of John Bigger's work with the turtle. You can see the sacred geometry all throughout the work, the row houses, and of course the larger image of the sea turtle. The tagline of C-STEM is in here. Everyone's an artist and an engineer, and of course C-STEM is in here. And so they really captured well what it is that they were supposed to do. They understood the assignment, as we say in today's lingo. And it's something that many of the school systems have gotten away from, the feeder pattern, but I can see them moving back towards the feeder pattern as we try to strengthen and better community schools. And then the last thing I guess I want to show you is how this work took me all the way to the White House. So I had no idea, again, I was a teacher at Jack Yates, and I created an organization to help teachers like me do this kind of work. And I intended for C-STEM to only largely work with Jack Yates at the time, but of course it grew to reaching many schools across the country. And so this was an amazing time when I was honored for this work by then President Obama, and having the opportunity to meet with the then Vice President Biden in his home. And so this is what you can expect to see at Project Row Houses. We hope that you come out and see the exhibition. It opens Saturday, August the 8th, and it will be here until September the 11th. So please stop by, see the exhibition, and share with all of your friends.